Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. I'm Bonnie O'Regan. I'm the Advanced Learning Program Facilitator. Today, what we're going to do is talk about the grade 2 placement procedures. They are a little bit different this year. Let me go through everything, and I see that people are putting in questions into the Q&A, and I will be monitoring that, but answering those directly at the end if I've not already covered that. In grade 2, what we have is we have enrichment. In grade 2 enrichment, this is in addition to the core curriculum. This is not replacing the core curriculum. It's not advanced content. And students will be placed into enrichment for reading or math. Grades 3 through 5, we start with replacing core curriculum for reading and math in advanced academics. And we have enrichment in science. This is what happens in a non-COVID year. This year, we have students in cohorts, and so they are replacing their academics for reading, writing, math, and science. In grades 6 through 8, we have replacing core curriculum in language arts, and then students are also qualified to do the elective, the seminar. This year, we have the seminar included in and integrated into the language arts curriculum. This does not negate that there are 3 different levels of math, 2 levels of science, 2 levels of foreign language. These are just not run by the advanced learning program. So when we're looking at grade 2 for right now, what we're looking at is the placement process identifies those students who are pulled out for that enrichment. And it includes multiple steps in the process. Right now, we're right in the middle of the referral phase. We have looked at a number of the STAR tests and talked with teachers. We've done teacher referrals, and now we're in the middle of looking at parent referrals. Then we're looking at the evaluation phase. This is the phase that I'll be talking about in depth today. And then we'll be looking at the placement phase. So in this first part, the referral phase, teachers referring the students for additional testing. The students were above the 96th percentile on the STAR reading and or math, or the teachers were also asked for those students who may not be at the 96th percentile, but who showed characteristics of underdeveloped potential. Then I've also been asking for parents now to refer, and I'm getting quite a few of those. All of these forms are due in by November 13th. I just see the remote learners and how they're going to be participating. Remote learners, all of the testing and the evaluation phase is going to be done in person. The remote learners are not going to be pulled out for the activities. Instead, all students will have access to the enrichment playlist of our learning activities to complete during their what they need now time. In the placement, in the evaluation phase, we look at 3 different components. These are all different. We look at ability, achievement, and performance. Ability is a reasoning ability. This is the general level of how well do they reason within a symbol system. Achievement is what they have actually acquired in knowledge, and performance is that integration of those components. For the ability test, we look at the cognitive abilities test. This is a change from previous years. Previously, the cognitive abilities test was given to all grade 2 students, and then we use that as part of our screening, and we use those scores within our evaluation process. This year, not all grade 2 students took the full cognitive abilities test. Instead, students who are being recommended for possible pull-out enrichment for reading will take the verbal battery. And the verbal battery looks at reasoning within the word number the word system. Students are presented with 20 to 24 questions, given a set amount of time in each of 3 different subtests. Those 3 subtests are verbal analogies, where the students are asked to examine a pair of words and think of which in ways that they are related. Then apply this relationship to a third word to generate a new pair of words related in the same way as the first ones. In sentence completion, students read an incomplete sentence and then select the answer choice that best completes the sentence. In verbal classification, students examine the 3 words and think of ways that they are alike, then select the answer choice that belongs in the same group. You'll notice here that sometimes the kids will get confused and will try to name the group instead of finding the other one that goes correctly in. There are practice questions embedded within the test so that we know that the students know how to do each type of question. In the quantitative, we look at how well students work within the number system, and the students who are testing for math enrichment pull-out will be taking this battery. The 3 subtests are between 16 and 18 questions, and there's a set amount of time for each. Follows the same format as the verbal. We look at number analogies, 2 pairs of numbers, and determine the rule that the pairs follow, then apply that rule to the 3rd pair. In number puzzles, students are presented an equation in which elements are missing, and students must substitute in numbers for the missing elements to solve the equation. For the number series, each question contains a series of numbers that follow a pattern. First, students identify the rule that the numbers follow, then apply that rule to the next set. So the cognitive abilities test is looking at our ability section. When we look at achievement, we look at what the students has achieved or how much information they have, what they have and skills gained from their experience, not necessarily in school, but also outside of school. This is similar to the STAR assessment. The STAR assessment gives us a good screening measure, but we will be using the measures of academic progress, or the MAP test, for reading and or math. Like the STAR test, it's computer adaptive. This continually adjusts the difficulty of the student's question by choosing each question based on their student's previous response. So kids cannot move backward or move back. The MAP poses questions that are not always grade level questions. They will be above grade level. And the testing continues as students get the questions correct. So you can see here in this student gets a question here correct, gets a harder question, then it modifies and goes up and down. These are untimed, and students, the entire test generally takes approximately 40 minutes on average. Sample questions for the students who are testing for reading pull-out, they will be doing reading. In the reading sample questions, we look at key ideas and details, looking at literary text and nonfiction informational text also. You can see here where they need to read and then answer the questions. It's multiple choice. When they also will be looking at language, craft, and structure within literary and nonfiction. And they will also be doing some vocabulary acquisition and use, looking at a number. And in this one, they use the context clues to decipher the word meanings and the nuances. For math, for those students who are testing for math enrichment, they will be, here are some sample questions. These are sometimes multiple choice where they'll get pictures that they can use, or that's computation. Yes, they will be given scrap paper. I'm not reading the questions, but I assume That's one of the questions. Yes, of course they can have scrap paper. And again, this is untimed. They will also have some interactive questions where they'll be asked to actually make a bar graph or select all the quadrilaterals. Again, you notice that there are going to be some questions that they may not have been exposed to in grade 2 curriculum at this point in time. That's the adaptive nature of this. And students should expect that if they're getting stuff that they haven't already seen, that's great, because it's showing that they're getting those things correct that are along. Students should plan for an optimal. Students will get about half of the questions correct. If they don't know, they're encouraged to make a guess and keep on and move on to the next question. Then again, these are static questions that I Googled, and these are the ones I found, some static ones. There's also a practice assessment that the students will be able to access. You can access this at home, or they will also be accessing this as part of the as part of the preparation that they get when they go in for their first testing session. Here's the link here is practicenwea.org. Username and password are both Bro. This is not an adaptive assessment, and the questions will give you what the question types are. So when you go in there, you select grade level 2. Oh, you can play around, select different grade levels if you wish. The questions are basically the same. Then you want to reading, not language. And then you practice items in reading, and then it will actually go in and you can actually look at the types of questions that they are going to be exposed to. Again, this is not adaptive. It is for your information, but the students will have this. There's no advantage for those students who have this information versus not. They will all get the same level of information. But you'll notice that all of this has pre-canned responses that they're multiple choice. So this is your brain, and this is your brain on a multiple choice test. And so what we want to do is also look at open responses, and we do that in the form of performance tests. In the reading performance test, students are asked to read a short fable. I have for my sample here, I use The Lion and the Mouse, which we're all very familiar with. And in The Lion and the Mouse, then the students are asked a number of questions about this. There's 4 questions. These are the types of questions that we would be asking about. How does this fable tell you about friendship? What's the moral of the story? After reading, think about the change the lion goes through. Explain how the lion changed from the beginning of the fable to the end. The most important component of this is using details from the text to support their answer. Then each one of those questions is scored using a rubric, moving from from a very literal response. A 0 response is that the students either just say, I don't know, or they just copy right from the copy the question down. It's basically either a non-response, or they may tell me about their best friend. In a level 1 response, the students are literal. They will give me facts from the story. A 2 will be somewhat interpretive, and a 3 is they're starting to get into an analysis. Here's a sample. So if we take that first question sample that I shared earlier, is if we look about what does this tell us about friendship, using details, a 0 response is don't laugh at your friends, versus the number 1 tells us that friendship is good to have. This is a literal response to what does it tell us about friendship. 2, you can see here the student has started to dig into using details from the text to tell about the friendship can help you when you're in danger, because the mouse had so much friendship that the lion was brave enough to save him. versus an analysis of that you should let people have a chance to be your friend because it's nice and you can see how people help. I think this because in the story, the lion forgave the mouse for waking him, and the mouse freed the lion from the trap so he could be free. The mouse helps the lion helps the mouse, and that's what friendship is all about. So you can see here where they start to really analyze. When I talk with students about this, the most important thing to have in these responses is not necessarily what the response is, it's the word because. We want the word because in these answers because then that helps them remember to put in the support. They are prompted throughout by the proctors to make sure to go back and add some more details in order to do it. Notice that these do not need to be long responses. I'm just looking at depth. Spelling, grammar do not count, and handwriting doesn't count. We can read pretty much most second grade writing. In the math performance task, what the students are doing is combining the skills and their reasoning in order to develop a strategy and do non-routine questions. So here's three samples. The only way 10 can be written as a sum of 4 different counting numbers is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. How many different ways can 15 be written? Using a sum of 4 different counting numbers. On a farm, there's some hens and sheep. Although there's 8 heads, and altogether there's 8 heads and 22 feet. How many hens are there? And then you talk about oranges are selling for $3. He decides to add some, but not change the actual price of it. So now they come out to be $2 a dozen. How many oranges were added to the bag? If we look at this one here about the farms and hens on the farm with the hens and the sheep, you and I, knowing algebra and know our systems of equations, would probably do H plus S equals 8, right? 2H plus 4S is equal to 22, and solve the systems of equations. However, the students can do this by using pictures. There's 8 heads. They draw 8 heads, and then they say, okay, well, everybody has to have 2 feet. So we now count here, and we've got 16 feet, but we need 22. So we add on some more feet until we indeed get to 22 feet. Once we get to 22 feet, we can count and say, oh, there are 5 hens. Now, wouldn't have Algebra 2 been much easier if we would have done it this way? So when we get all this together, oh, I forgot. There are 8 of those questions that the students will have 40 minutes to complete. The questions, I time them out to be so that they should take about 5 minutes each for the students to grapple with those. Then we put together how the kids do on their ability, their achievement, and the performance. We look at the behaviors, characteristics, because we want a valid and reliable picture of what that student is doing. No one score determines that placement in the pullout program, but no one score will say, no, you can't be placed, be identified for that pullout. And how we do that is we get together in a group, drink plenty of coffee, and talk about each and every student who has been referred. It does not matter if you referred them or a teacher referred them, or they came through, they were referred because of their high star. We look at every student and looking at the educational needs of that particular student, because we want every student to be within their learning zone. The learning zone, or that zone of proximal development, is that place at which they can do things on their own with some assistance. Comfort zone is where homework lives, and this is what they can do completely on their own. That's why a lot of times you'll find that the students that homework they're able to do within 5 minutes, they're really able to do that completely on their own. Great, that's where homework is. Anxiety zone is where they are frustrated, and you get the tears and mom, I can't do this. If you're if homework is in the anxiety zone, contact the teacher immediately. Let them know that that's where the child is living for that homework. Placement recommendations, you can be, students will be recommended for ALP enrichment. You can always say, no thanks, not at this time. I don't want them pulled out into a separate room for pull-out enrichment. If students are not recommended for the pull-out enrichment, you can be asked to be reconsidered versus the appeal process. And I'll be going over that when we talk about the placement phase in depth. So referral phase, permissions and referral forms are all due by November 13th. Because the tests will be administered starting actually on the 16th, on that Monday after that, between the 16th and the December 11th. All tests must be done in person. So if a student or a group of students is quarantined, testing for that student or group of students is suspended until they return to in-person learning. There may be some makeup tests happening after December 11th due to quarantining. We will make sure that we have all of that information that we need in order to make those placement recommendations. The assessment results, the results of all of the assessments that we do as part of this process will be emailed to you along with the placement recommendations before winter break, which winter break is December 23rd. I'd like to say that I'll get those out before that, but the deadline is the 23rd. You will know what the results are at that point in time. Preparing. Read. Take the test seriously, but don't stress out about it. Just give your best effort. Getting to bed early, good night breakfast, arrive to school on time. You will find out from the ALP teacher or whoever is the testing facilitator for the elementary school, which they attend, a testing schedule for that. So let's look at the questions. I'm going to stop the share so that you can actually see me. And I'm going to go through each of these here. Is a CogAT test first, and when we get those results, then we're going to give them the written test? No, we're just going to include that in the testing protocol. The order in which the buildings choose to give the test is up to them. Those are building level decisions, as is the timing of on what days they're going to be giving the test. It's just that they're given in that window. How many kids are placed per school? How many? The number of students that are placed per school depends upon how many students are in the evaluation process that the committee says these students need to be pulled out for enrichment. There is no set answer. I said that wrong. There is no set number. There's no cap on the number of kids that can be pulled out at any one point in time. The testing sessions, there will be a testing session for CogAT. There will be a testing session or sessions for the MAP, the NWEA MAP test. There will be a testing session for the performance. So there are 6 testing sessions that are being done, 3 for reading and 3 for math. Testing sessions range from 30 minutes to 1 hour, depending upon the type and the format. Students may end up doing a part of the test in 30 minutes, taking a break, and then coming back and doing the another portion of the test in the same day in another testing session. Presentation is up on the website. So I have already uploaded it into the website. If I share my screen here. can see this one here. I have in Greenwich Public Schools, you go to teaching and learning, academics, see advanced learning program here. In informational meetings, you will see here's the placement process. Here's the links for today's meeting. Here is the presentation. This is where you will see the recording of today's presentation appear here as soon as it is ready to go. While I am in here, I will show you here what this practice test looks like. You can go in and write in grow here, select grade 2, subject, you don't want language, you want reading or math. We can look at the math in English, and then we want the practice math here. They will not do the K2, they will be doing the 2+. And so you can get in and see the actual questions here. There are 10 questions in here for them to do, and you can play around with what the tools are. Next one, if your child scored above the 96th percentile on STAR, you should have received an email from me inviting the child to be evaluated. If you didn't, go ahead or if you're not sure, go ahead and put in a referral form. That's all right. In the emails that I sent out to those parents that they're above the 96th percentile, there's a link to a permission form. If you've lost that, just go ahead and put in the referral form. That's not, doesn't matter to me. All I need to know is that we have permission to do the assessing, to do these extra tests. If you don't wish your child to be assessed at this time, that's not an issue. Just say no. If your child is transferring to in-person, then go ahead and fill in the referral form. I have a list of people who are currently enrolled in their remote school, who parents have said that have put in a referral form. I'm keeping that list separate so that if you do decide to go in person, that I will make sure that they're on the assessment. If you choose to go to in person in January or after the assessments are complete in the buildings, then you and I will work out a time that we can do that assessment at that point in time. It's not a one-shot deal. Next one, how do you know if your teacher is recommending a student to test if you've got a below a 96th percentile? If your child's STAR assessment is below a 96th percentile and they were recommended to test, it was because a teacher said, you know what, the student's doing really well. Maybe the STAR assessment wasn't a clear indication. Parent referrals. Did that answer that question adequately? I'll go on. Historical percentage of placement from parent referrals. A few. Most of this, there's always a few. I don't have the exact percentage. That would be something, let me write that down because that's a good question. And I'd like to dig into that a little bit more. Again, there is no advantage of one over the other. Is the CogAT on the computer? The CogAT will be paper pencil. The map is on the computer, the adaptive nature of that. For the in-person in ALP, will there be a dedicated classroom or move in and out of the main classroom? They will be moving in and out of the main classroom and going into the ALP classrooms. Oh, the remote school students who are in grade 2 will be, will have all students who are in grade 2 remote will have access to the enrichment playlists. They are, and then through a Google Classroom, similar to what they do with their art and music at this point, and then feedback will be given on if they complete those enrichment activities. The placements, last year we placed around 50 students total. I'm expecting that it'll be about the same this year. The program will be starting in January. Will be starting in January. If there's an adjustment that needs to be made due to an appeal or a student that is moving from remote to in school, then those adjustments can be made at that point in time. And then we will be going through this entire process once again in the spring for placement into the replacement program that starts in grade 3. You may refer your child for a single subject. It doesn't matter if you do both or only one. It's up to you. If they've been referred for one and already, and you want to add the other one, go ahead and fill out the form, and I will make sure that that information is sent along to the schools. For students who are placed into the pull-out for next year, we are planning on that they will be in 3rd grade replacement next year, unless there is some reason to believe that they would not be successful in a replacement program. We will also be looking for students who need the replacement program. Grade 2, this age is a huge growing year for students. And so, and talent development is dynamic. So we want to make sure that every spring, whether they're in grade 2, grade 3, all the way through grade 8, that we look at the students again completely. So every spring we do a complete process. Additionally, you see me say, we look at the data continually. Anytime the students take a norm referenced assessment, meaning the STAR assessment, or later on when they start taking the Smarter Balanced assessment, whenever I get those scores, I'm looking at them and asking the question, here's a student who scored very well at the 98th or 99th percentile. Are they an ALP? If not, why not? How are they doing in school? So anytime we get that type of information, we will be looking at the students again. Carmen, about parent, know if the classroom teacher has referred the student for ALP. I think I answered that one already. COVID protocols for the testing and pullout. So the students will be pulled out for the testing in a safe environment. Again, they'll be using the same type of protocols in that testing environment that they are in their classrooms, and that with the ALP teacher or the test facilitator, which in some buildings may be me, depending upon how the schedule works out. So the pull-out sessions is that it does not affect their homerooms. They will go from their homeroom into, for the ALP with the ALP teacher and then go back into their homerooms. Where does the testing take place in school? That will be dependent upon the school so that we have enough space and the number of students being tested. So we have enough space so that the students can stay safe. Can you do ALP assessments in 3rd grade or later? Yes, every spring. If a school goes remote, the testing is suspended until such time as we come back. The Google Classroom playlist with that will be available for students in that starting in January. District moves to hybrid or remote model. Yeah, so the testing is, and what we'll do is make sure that in January, we will be making sure that all students who are at home and learning will have access to those enrichment playlists. Yes, only selected students take the CogAT this year, not the whole 2nd grade. True. You will get the results from the CogAT map and the written test before winter break, as soon as all that testing is completed and we have a placement recommendation. If the whole school goes remote because of the virus in the community, ALP will be handled in the same way we're doing with the remote school. Star school. Okay, this one here is how points are determined for the ALP placement this year, and how will the most recent STAR scores carry points. STAR will not carry any points. We will be using the MAP test for our achievement points, and I will update the I will be updating the placement protocols handbook with those new ones. I'm working on looking at what the scores are instead of a scale score like you get in a STAR, you get a RIT score, and so that placement handbook is being updated to reflect that, but in the same fashion as what we've done in the past. The CogAT will carry up to 10 points. The MAP test will carry up to 10 points, and as will the performance task. And we'll be looking for students that have a total of 14 points or higher. I will be going into that in depth in early January when we do another webinar to go over the placement scores when you have your actual scores in front of them. The playlist is a set of activities that the students can do on their own. Their enrichment activities that the students can do on their own at home, and they will be given feedback on those. The Google Classroom code. I am actually meeting with the grade 2 remote teachers this week, and we're going to be talking about the how they will share that through they will have access to that classroom so that they can incorporate it right into the classroom, the Google Classroom that the students are already accessing, so there's not a separate access point. You will get you will get a copy of the testing results no matter what. If they sat down to do the evaluation phase with me, you will get all of the results. Any other questions? Math and reading are done at separate times. If you want to talk with me at all, feel free to contact me. If you want to talk about how, that if you're wondering about how your child is doing in school and how they're doing on their grade level content, talk with the classroom teacher. I can talk to you more about the assessments and what we do at this level. Let me share my screen again. When you go into the Greenwich Schools website, you look under Academics to Advanced Learning Program. If you look at the informational meetings here, you will see grade 2 fall outplacement process, and you will see the presentation is right there. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, the ALP handbook. If you go here, if you go under the placement, you will see the placement procedures handbook is right here. In here, the updates. This is the normal process, the referral forms. Here's the list when I refer to the characteristics, what I'm looking at here in the characteristics. Samples, these are the same samples that I'd given, and the points here. Here are the language arts points. At this point in time, we only use a 3-point rubric, so there's 12 points available. And then here's the achievement. This is the part that needs to be updated for the map test. But you'll see everything here. This is a long version of what I just did, what I just said. For the students, you know your child best. If they're going to be doing some additional assessments to make sure that the teachers can best meet their academic needs in school. And if they don't get placed, it doesn't mean that they're not smart. You still love them, and that it is that at this point in time that their classroom teacher is doing a wonderful job of keeping them challenged within the classroom. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much.